right. Anthony had requested Antispins, and I thought, hey, man, it's almost Christmas, and I figured you guys should have something really awesome to work with while you're eating your Christmas dinners and opening your Christmas presents, which are hopefully nunchucks. So today we're going to cover Antispins. And Antispins can come in a variety of different forms, as well as even finger rolls and thumb rolls. But the concept is simple. And the idea of Antispins and inspins are the same. So inspins are also an often neglected thing, so I want to cover this really quick. Basically, an inspin and an antispin are they're different because the chuck is spinning one direction, and then your arm is either spinning this way or spinning this way. And that's kind of the whole idea. Your arm is spinning either with the direction of the chuck, which is an inspin like this, or you're spinning against the direction of the chuck, which is an antispin. Now, it really doesn't look too good until you start creating smaller points. A point is basically where your hand rests for a second. So rest, rest, rest. So it's 1, 2, 3. You're gonna watch my hand. 1, 2, 3. And then all of a sudden it creates a totally different pattern, whether we do 3 points or 4 points or 5 points or 6 points. We can do as many points as we want. But just basically, once you start doing points, all you have to do is just map it out in your head. Now the question is well, how do you transition with an antispin? And the answer is really quite simple, but it takes a lot of work to get the feel at first. Antispins is it's totally a feeling game. But as an instructor, I can't say, well, just feel it. So what you have to do is train to figure out how do you feel it. And the best way I can describe to feel it is wherever your chuck is trying to go, whenever your chuck is in the opposite direction, so whenever this rotation is in the exact opposite, like if it's here, I can pull it up to this point at this particular moment. If the chuck is facing upwards like this, as it's spinning and it's facing upwards, I can drop my hand down, and as it's spinning, it'll hit downward at the perfect time. So it's here. If I'm making a 3-point antispin, for instance, I got 1, 2, 3. Once my chuck is down here, I'm going to pull it up and to the right. So here, whoosh, like that. Now I'm going to try to get here, so the chuck needs to be up here. Whoosh. And then now I want to get back to the original point, so my chuck needs to be facing this direction. Whoosh. And then as you keep feeling it out, you're going to start to be able to speed it up. And as you start to speed it up, you're going to start to feel that it has like this pulling mechanism. And as you go faster, you can really start to see that this is kind of a different kind of motion, right? So start slow. You're not going to feel it, and that's okay. Just visualize until you can get the pulling right. The moment you get the pulling right, bring it up a little bit faster, a little bit faster. Now these points can be anywhere. So for instance, if I wanted to do this triangle or this triangle, they're the same. I just have to find the different points. This triangle, basically I'm going 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if I create a triangle and my chuck is spinning counterclockwise, I need to make sure that my circle is going to go clockwise. A clockwise circle is this way, so I'm always going up, right, down, up, right, down. If I go the other way, I'm going to go into inspin, which will look like this, right? It doesn't quite look the same. Basically, I'm just resting my hand at a point, pulling it to the next point, pulling it to the next point. So if it doesn't feel right as you're doing your points, see if you just change the direction that you're approaching the points. So if you're going this way and it's not working, just go the other way. Just imagine that all the points are on a clock, and it's either going one direction or the other, clockwise or counterclockwise, and that's how you can feel it out. So that's the basics of it. You can do 3 points, like I said. 3 points is usually pops the most, but you can also do 4 points, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And if in the center again was a clock, you would know exactly the way that the points need to move. So if my hand is going counterclockwise, it would go here to here to here to here. Now, if my chuck was spinning the other way, obviously I'd have to just go opposite. And that's kind of how it works in a nutshell. But so what else is there with antispins? And then we're going to cover inspins a little bit more too. There's more to antispins than just that, of course. Like, what about antispin hand rolls? And these are hard, and I haven't done these in a while. But the trick to an antispin hand roll is very simple. It's usually a 3-point antispin, so 1, 2, 3. We're just going to do 3 points. We're going to have 2 points here and 1 point around my head. We're going to start crossed over, right? And the idea of this is basically, like we're going to do a front-to-front hand roll here, right? We're going to do a front-to-front hand roll, but while we do it, we're going to move our hand up in space right here. So front to front, and the moment I grab it, I pull it down and over. So it's that simple. It's really a front to front hand roll can happen in different ways, but essentially the way to remember it is in the very beginning you're going to do your hand roll. Sometimes you can do the hand roll as it comes up and hits this point and arcs back down like this, like that. It's a little bit trickier. Or if you want to start out a little more basic, then do your hand roll to this point and then pull it over. Once you get the hang of that, yes, you can finish your hand roll. Like you can do the hand roll that goes up and down. You just have to make sure you have control because it's going to want to fly out of your hands because your hands are open. But you can eventually get control of that, and that will allow you to do anti-spin hand rolls. That takes a lot of practice, and if it's worth it or not is up to you. But like I said, you can always fudge it. You can just do a hand roll to the first point and then move it over. Hand roll to the first point, move it over. The last thing I want to talk about is digit rolls. And digit rolls, again, there is an anti-digit roll, and it's really easy to find because let's say I just do a finger roll that's horizontal, right? As we're spinning it across, you're going to feel right away there's going to be an easy way and a hard way. The anti-roll is the hard way. So if I were to, for instance, if I'm using my right hand and I'm going to bounce it across my bicep, tricep, or wait, what's that called? My delt. You're going to basically do a horizontal finger roll, and you're going to feel it easily slide across this direction. And that's because you're going in spin, you're moving with this general spin. However, if we were to spin and start here and move it backwards, we would be going into an anti-roll. And it feels a lot different, which is really nice. It almost always feels like it's gonna like roll off your hands. So the speed at which you move backwards is very important so this doesn't fly off your hands. So you're gonna have to experiment with different speeds until you can kind of just feel it. First start it in spin and back, and then start anti-spin with the rolls. And then you can create really cool combos, like if you know how to do the finger to thumb roll, go ahead and do an anti-roll to start with and back with the thumb. So anti-roll here, back with the thumb, and down. And all of a sudden you have this nice around the world kind of motion. This can work horizontally, this can work vertically, this can work diagonally. For instance, if you hear, that's gonna be your standard one. But if you pull it down, and I've never even tried this, I just thought I'd make it up. And it's a lot harder than I thought, because as we go diagonal, I would probably have to train to get my finger at that right angle. Right now my finger is like twisting in the wrong way, but that's going to be some muscle memory, and you can pull it straight up in that direction. Every single new kind of combo like this requires you to think outside the box and to learn it in muscle memory, which is a big reason why sometimes, especially lately, I sometimes drop some of my older moves just because I don't train it as much as I used to. I'm kind of like a mad scientist, and as I discover new moves, I'd rather teach you than work on the old ones because I already have my style that works for performances and shows. Now, I also want to talk about in spins for a minute, because this is super neglected. The in spin is neglected more than I can think of, because everybody be loving the anti-spins, and there's no problem with that. I mean, who doesn't like anti-spins? But in spins, now this is kind of like, okay, so an in spin is you're still choosing the points, so like point, 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 and it has to have like a little bit of extra leeway between one of the points to kind of be able to breathe. So you have to spin it a little bit longer on the very last point to get it back to the first point. But there are some tricks that you can do to make in spins look very cool and very interesting, especially if you start adding stalls. So here's a 2-point in spin. We could have our point up here, and we're thinking of a circle. We're going to put a point at the top. We're going to reach down, put a point at the bottom, point at the top, point at the bottom, right? Point at the top, point at the bottom, point at the top, point at the bottom. Not interesting, right? But now let's add a stall to it and see what happens, because as we're moving in spin, it makes it a lot easier to set up for stalls because your hand is moving in the same direction as the chuck, which allows you to be able to motion in. Now, if you're wondering about stalls really quick, the easiest way that I can describe a stall is wherever this chuck is spinning, generally speaking, wherever the tip is at, is where my hand needs to be when it's spinning this direction. So if you look at this and you hold your chuck exactly sideways, think my hand needs to arc up and straight down to bring it down, and that becomes a stall. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stall the top point, right? So we're going to go here, we're going to stall the top point, and then let's just go and create it down. Boom. Now we have like this different look to the in spin that makes it pretty interesting. What if we did an up stall as well? Now the up stall does take some time to practice. So you're gonna, if you don't know this, that's okay. It's kind of like you're flicking and you're doing the same thing. You're trying to get the chuck to stand straight up, except for you're kind of flicking your wrist into it. It's almost like a twisted wrist, and it's the same thing as it's spinning here, right? When it's here, you're going to try to reach it. You're going to go under and lift it up until the chucks stand straight up. But if you do that with the down stall, then you continue the motion into the up stall, and this isn't going to be the prettiest, but you get the concept. Down stall, up stall, down stall, up stall, down stall. And the moment you do a stall, the cool thing is you can change the direction because the in spin, because you're going, your chuck is moving and your arm is moving in the same direction. It really doesn't matter if you change directions because the chuck is changing direction with your arm. So all of a sudden we have this up stall, down stall motion, and now you have all these really crazy creative patterns that you can do. So you're like, rah, rah, you know. You just have this you have this nice motion, and that's just one example. There's a lot of different ways that you can stall it or come up with ideas to create in-spin patterns, but don't neglect the in-spins because they offer their own, they offer their own little themes, so think about that. Anyways, Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. If you don't celebrate, that's okay too. Just hope you all are doing awesome. Send me a message if you want, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy training.